My name is George Bolster. I'm a visual artist. I'm from Cork and I'm based in New York City. My studio is in Manhattan, but I actually live in Brooklyn, where I am right now. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, which means I've used all sorts of materials and different types of genres within my work. I have done everything from painting to sculpture to film. I studied painting at college in London, and I also studied film for my MFA, both of which are still part of my practice today. The larger part of my practice tends to be installations, 3 of which I delivered for the exhibition at Solstice Art Centre. Over the last decade, I've made a range of conceptual films or idea-based films, which examine different contested ideas that are happening in art history or science or other bodies of knowledge. Recently, I made The Moon, MacMoons and the Moon Museum, which focuses on the first art object in space, which was smuggled aboard Apollo 12 on its voyage to the moon and is presently on the moon, although this has never been fully confirmed by NASA. The film examines the long-term cultural preservation of art and its conservation in the face of environmental disintegration that we're facing now. I use a combination of science, art history, and science fiction to examine our most pressing societal and species-wide challenges at the beginning of the 21st century. The films that I have made become the central idea out of which grows all different types of production, essentially. So there'll be installations that come out of it. There are sculptures, and most recently a large-scale mobile for Solstice Art Centre. There will be text works that come out of it because I'm very interested and inspired by text art, and I'm also inspired by art and design in a broader sense in general. So a number of my works have referenced different artists and different designers, such as the drawings that I recently showed at Solstice. I am inspired by all sorts of things. I grew up pre the internet, so I love libraries. Libraries are a great source of information, and also libraries have fantastic art books, and so you can bury yourself for hours learning about art. As my work is research-based, a lot of the projects that come out of that research begin by my reading something or by my doing a residency somewhere in the world, like on Captiva Island in Florida, which was the Rauschenberg residency, which then grew into a large-scale project addressing how Rauschenberg as an artist was an environmentalist early in the 60s, and he remained part of the environmentalist movement until his death, actually. He was trying to save this island, which will be underwater by 2080 because of climate change and rising water levels. And so I began researching this film piece called Unnatural History, Drowning Captiva, which looked at 3 narratives. His narrative in the 60s, which dealt with feminism, the civil rights movement, and the gay rights movement, and a look at the present day, which looks at the environmental precipice that we're on right now. And then the other part or narrative of the film dealt with future laws that will come into place potentially to stop the damage that we're doing to the earth. In terms of research, I really love writing. Often it's just random scribbles, some phrase that I particularly like or write. It can be in notebooks or it can be on my phone. So I use the notes program on this phone a lot to write and scribble down ideas, and also to formulate different ideas that I'm working at. I love drawing, but I don't do it all that much for research purposes. I tend to research first and then do a drawing, which I know is quite unusual. The advice I would give anyone who wants to be an artist or enjoys making art is allow yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are so important to creativity, and also they're important for driving everything in art forward. On the first day I was at NASA during my residency with SETI Institute, I walked in being terrified because I was going to have to talk to all of these scientists and I didn't study science. And so I met the first scientist and she was dealing with bones and bone disintegration in space, which is a symptom of long-term lack of gravity in space. And she said to me, I don't know how it works in art, but in science, you do an experiment, you fail, you do an experiment, you fail, you do an experiment, you fail, but it's interesting. And then you use that research to do another experiment and succeed. And so for me, that was huge because I thought, oh, that's exactly what happens in art, whether you like it or not. And it was very helpful for me to allow myself to fail with these scientists. And it is the most important thing as an artist to be able to do, and then pick yourself back up and try it again, which is the most important thing in life, in any field. Beginning a new piece of work, for me at least, can be very intimidating because you're not quite sure of where you stand. There are a lot of ideas that you could pursue, but you're not quite sure which ones you absolutely want to. But sometimes that is the most exciting part of the process. And so beginning without putting too much pressure on yourself is a very important thing. And being able to go on a journey in terms of what you make is the exciting part of doing it. And so enjoy that part of it. I think that's very important as an artist.